Okay, hello everyone. My name, can you hear me? Uh-huh. Oh, yes. Now I figured out how to talk at the same time. Cass, Cassie, StarGirlCass. Um, I go by many names, but I'm all the same person. And so I'm going to start the slideshow. Um, so my topic today is game mastering under pressure. And basically, what happened is that last year I took over a sim that where the game master quit, and because I didn't want the sim to die out, and so I had never game mastered in the Trek universe before, and it had been several years since I had done it in general. My last go at it had been a Stargate sim, and it back then the simming world was much different. So that was very much play by posts. Yahoo groups kind of situation. So this was a new thing for me, so I thought I would share all with you in case you find yourself in a similar situation. So today I'm just going to be discussing a few topics and giving my opinion and my experience um, about each topic. Also, I will make sure that the hosts get a copy of this in case anybody wants to read through it themselves. Um, and also, I tend to ramble, so if I get off track, somebody just let me know and I will try to shut it down. So what happened anyways? How did you find yourself in this situation? Well, in my case, our GM just kind of left. He chose to leave for personal reasons, which, it happens, right? Real life is sometimes wild. And so here we are. And um, so here we are. So as you can see, in my case, our GM just left. He cited personal reasons, and then he was also bored with the fandom, which is fair. At the last year we had just gotten all of the new Trek shows had just ended. Disco, Lower Decks, and Prodigy kind of all ended at once. We were left with the aftermath of Picard not ending so well, in my opinion, that kind of thing. So I kind of also feel that if you are old school, and he was, you know, New Trek kind of put a monkey wrench into a lot of the world building that you had maybe done in your head or whatever of what you see for the future, and and that's okay. But having a reason is good if they feel like giving you one, um, because I feel like that's a good way to build a story, right? In our case, we wrote out the GM, the captain, and our EXO character who had left the year before for health reasons and won't be coming back to RP at all ever, probably, by having a massive battle with the Breen, which fit into our timeline at the time. They were both killed in action, along with a few other people in the leadership positions and such. And so we lost half the ship and etc. And that's how we made it believable, so that my character could step into the role of captain without being like, this doesn't make any sense. How did this happen? Right. Um, but also it explained how my character, who was actually the CMO of the sim at the time, became the captain all of a sudden. And also I was the only one who volunteered to take it over, just because at the time I was not as buried in life as I am now. You know, whoops, I clicked the wrong button. Um, Also, on the other hand, if a GM leaves suddenly, though, for no reason, you can have an opportunity for a really fun plot. Like you can come up with some crazy stuff, like they got eaten by aliens, or they turn into a sea monster, and the remaining crew have to work together to bring them down and eliminate the threat. So that's also, you know, gives you some a place to jump off from. Um, Finally, I went ahead and cut all ties to the former GM. You know, some people might be like, "Well, that's kind of weird," but for me, it was about making a whole fresh start. We left the former host and joined a new fleet group, so we switched from Star Trek UK to 16th Fleet. And we added some fresh active players and revamped our whole game from the type of ship that we had. We were originally a Daedalus class ship, I believe, and now we are well, we're gearing up to transfer to a Constitution class ship. And our overall mission arc has changed since my captain was a doctor originally. We're sort of heading up in more of a traditional Voyager type of plot where we do exploration and science and research with a little bit of combat too, of course, because it is Star Trek after all. So now you're the GM by default. And so what do you do about it? Well, you have to think about things. And I just made a little short list of the things, of the steps that I kind of took, right? So, first of all, you have to decide, is this something you actually like can do? Do you have a little bit of time to dedicate to it? Is this something that you can handle emotionally and physically even? I have physical illness, but it's not so impactful that like I find it super draining, but some people might. And that's, you know, that's definitely something that you have to take into consideration just for yourself and anybody in your immediate circle that your time away might impact, right? Like your spouse or your children or whatever the case may be. Um, and if you decide that you can, great. So your next step should be to ask for help. Talk to other GMs that you know, the GMs of games that you're already involved in, and ones of people that you know, your friends that you know who run games, who maybe you're not in their game, but that their game is ran or whatever. You can ask them and say, hey, what kind of you know, what kind of situation am I looking at getting myself into? How much time do you donate? Do you dedicate? Excuse me. Do you donate to the game? How much time do you spend behind the scenes? How much time do you spend world building and mission planning and things like that, to really see if it's something that you can do. And then I also went ahead and joined some groups. And by that, I mean, I joined not just fleet groups, but also other RPG writing groups as a whole. Like there's a big one here on Discord. There's rpgwriting.com. There's a whole bunch of other ones where you can kind of bounce ideas off of. And also like some of the forum groups have their own like web host people that where you can ask questions to. Like I know uh, JSync has one and ProBoards has one and things like that. So that kind of thing is important. Wait a minute. And so then what I did is set a schedule and try to log in regularly. I'm logged in most days of the week if possible, and I just check in, even if I can't schedule some time to post that day because my work schedule is really busy or whatever. I will at least check in on the Discord and make sure that everybody is doing okay. Chit chat, and make sure that there's no orders of business that need to be taken care of. We didn't have any characters sign up overnight. I didn't have a conflict that I need to help solve, things like that. And most importantly, have fun. If it becomes like a drag or another job or a chore to you, then obviously you picked wrong. And that's okay. Sometimes it happens. You have an idea in your head of what it's supposed to be, and then the reality is much different from that, good or bad, either way or not. One of my don'ts, the things that I learned not to do, is because you know, I know I'm going to make mistakes and I have made mistakes, but I know which mistakes I'm not going to make. And so hopefully this will explain that further. So don't overwhelm it or stretch yourself. And along with that, take on more than you can do. So for example, if you are looking to add yourself to, or maybe you want to make your game independent, you don't want to join a fleet group anymore. You're tired of the bureaucracy and stuff like that. Is that something that you can conceivably do, because that requires a whole other can of worms of in terms of time and dedication and world building and things like that that you wouldn't necessarily have resources and support for. So don't overwhelm yourself feeling like and also at a personal level, I have to really like separate myself from being the perfect GM to just being the best one I can be. And And with that, keep in mind, how would I want my GM to respond in a situation if I'm having a problem, or if I lose my muse for something, or I am just, really struggling at work, I have a really busy schedule, whatever. How would I want my GM to respond? And then hopefully I would be able to act in that way towards my players, right? Don't hesitate to reach out to other people. I have found that talking to other people who are players and GMs alike really help to give you input and second opinions that you didn't really consider in the first place. And it's a good way to bounce ideas off of people, and they can tell you, oh, yeah, that's a really good idea, or no, that's kind of lame. That's really dumb. Don't do that, and so on. And don't worry. At the end of the day, you're gonna make it. It'll be okay. Like I said, I'll make mistakes. You'll make mistakes. We'll all make mistakes, but hopefully we won't make the same mistakes, or we won't make mistakes that have happened to us as players in the past from GMs that maybe we didn't get along with, or we had that made a change that we didn't agree with, or whatever, right? So, like, if, for example, somebody brought in a new player that you didn't personally like, you never got along with that person, you would say, oh, the you would talk about it with your command team and say, before, we had this conflict, and I know such and such player A has a personal conflict with this person. Yeah, let's talk to them and see if they can be professional and work it out, or is this a can of worms we even want to open? Things like that. I don't know. That was a bad example, but the first one I could think of. Anyways, and other considerations to keep in mind is this something that you want to do, or is it something that you feel obligated to do? And for me, that was a big one. Is like, I had to really sit and think for a second before I volunteered. Like, is this really something that I want to do, or is it something that I feel obligated to do because I like the other players and I don't I worry about their, having a place to go. And it's not like there's not a million other games that they could join. And in reality, there's probably other GMs who are much better at doing their job than I am. But I just wanted to make sure that for me, it wasn't something that I felt like this is something I have to do for other people. It's something I wanted to do for myself. And it's something that I definitely feel like I could commit to. Do you want to take the game in a new direction, or do you want to keep with the original pre-planned plot? I think both are okay. Both have good and bad to them. And then you can go ahead and share your tips in the chat box if you want to. I don't know how to approve like hand waving, so if you're doing that, um, a moderator will have to handle that.
All right, I'm headed there. What are we looking for?
So at MySim, as I mentioned, we went ahead and made some big changes, which are not always necessary, but if you feel like they are for your game, then there's some steps that you can take. And the biggest thing to me is to research. And that means not necessarily like technical research per se, like does this fit into, a canon group, or what show, series, etc. does this fit into, but more like the research of the environment around you. Like if I want to change fleet groups, is the place where I'm going to go, would they be accepting of this kind of game? Would they give you enough support? Would my game distract from the overall kind of atmosphere, or would it enhance it in some way? That kind of thing is what I mean by research. You can also, check with your members. I am a big fan of, to me, it's called collaborative writing for a reason. And I'm a big fan of asking the members for their input whenever I have to make a decision that is not, like a small plot point or whatever. But if it's like a fairly major change to the overall structure of the game, then yeah, I'm going to ask them for their input. Like, guys, if we want to switch, you know, when we made the switch in ship class, I put it to the membership and said, hey, I have this idea. I think it'll be the final refresh that we needed to shake off the old sim and get the new one up and running more fully. And it's, been a long year of rebuilding, and we finally made it this far. So let's write off the other ship in a battle. And what do you guys think? And they were all for it, and I did it through polls and, just kind of inquiries and one-on-one discussions, and then group discussions, and um, all the way from the top down. And I really feel like if you are going to cultivate a good group, then that's the best step to take, is to first of all ask your membership. and then to make sure it's something that they even want to do, you know, and something that they're going to support you in. And then you can ask, does it make sense? You have to ask yourself, this does it make sense, and will it affect activity? So, like, does it make sense to just up and move because maybe the original GM joined this group for a reason, and because they have some really good resources for game masters. Maybe they have really good resources for players. Maybe they are an established group that's been around for 10 years and they're well known in the community and they have clout or whatever the reason is. Maybe there's a good reason, or maybe it's kind of this group has run its course and maybe it is a good time for you to switch. So you just kind of have to have some deep introspection with yourself about, now that we've decided to make this move, is it really going to be a payoff or not? And again, there's always risk with that, good and bad, you know. And it's nothing. The good thing about this kind of situation is that it's nothing that can't be undone, right? You can always defect from the new group and go back to the old one, or join even a third new one. It's things are always able to be fixed. And that's so you just decide to make your move, and you just got to, like I just made the point, remember, it's just RPG. There's nothing that is set in stone forever and ever and ever. And you can always make more changes in the future. In 5 years from now, if your group is now up to 20 players and you've decided, oh, maybe it's time for us to go independent, you can do that at that time. Always have flexibility. So this is just a little section about how to handle conflicts in any kind of movements or changes you're going to make. So they happen and it's okay. Um, you have to set boundaries for the former game master and yourself, and involve the active members at every turn. When I first took it over, the game master did come back a little bit later and is like, I do want to just be a regular player. Is that okay? And I was like, yeah, of course, totally okay. This is your idea to begin with. I'm just here being a goofball on the internet. So that was great. And then some other stuff happened that is like not important to this lecture. And but it was still a collaborative thing. Like, we were able to say, okay, there has come to a point of impasse where our visions for this aren't aligned. I can turn it back over to you and you can take it back over, or you can move on to something better and brighter and more of a fit for you, and I'm okay with whatever. And so we were eventually able to work it out. And my biggest key is, don't make it an everyone problem. Keep it in the DMs or on a more formal platform, like in the command section of your Discord or whatever, because even though it should involve the entire crew to an extent, there shouldn't be like, it shouldn't get personal. You know what I'm saying? And if it does, you don't want that out there in the public, because that is it's a really bad look. Um, and so when it comes to internal conflict, don't deviate from canon. So, for example, if the biggest impasse that the former GM and I had was, I'm a little bit more lax in the type of characters as long as they fit in canonically. Like, I don't necessarily allow um, like special races, that people just invent out of the thin air. But like, if there's a subspecies like the Vissians from Enterprise, for example, they're mentioned in like one episode, 1.5 episodes, and never again. But since they're on screen, they're canon. So that kind of situation, like, if you can make a logical case for it, like, I'll let you play that if you can give me a reason and a good summary, and you can have a little bit of world building that makes sense. As long as there's logic behind it, I'm gonna be more or less likely to let you play that character. um because for me, it's like I said, it's more about having fun and writing, creative writing, than it is about, oh my god, it has to be 100% Trek all of the time. Like, I'm not looking to make this like a Hollywood production, right? I'm just being a goofball on the internet. So for me, that's how I took the whole falling out with the former GM. Was like, listen, this character that you don't like having around is in fact canon to our timeline. Here's 2 or 3 examples from the actual series because we follow Voyager and DS9, sort of somewhere in the middle of those 2 timelines together. Um, Here's some on-screen examples. Here's some beta canon examples. So let's agree to disagree with this. And so in that way, we were finally able to work it out. Um, and then at the end of the day, always remember that the fleet leader should be there to help guide you both. And if they are not willing to do that, then maybe you should find a new fleet to belong to. But usually there's some kind of mechanism in place to help solve conflicts if the 2 people can't work it out together. Which is why I prefer joining fleet groups. But I know there's a big argument for the other thing as well. So you know, it's just kind of a personal preference thing, I think, at that point. Um, and which brings me to this next point of switching fleets. Is it necessary? Um, Staying put is always the easiest option. And we did do that for the first 3 months just because I was trying to get my footing on how to GM appropriately and what I thought my vision was for the game and for the group. And while I was also trying to advertise and rebuild, just having the resources that were already there was really helpful in getting us up off the ground again, right? Moving was a little harder. It did take a little bit of time and some steps, and including tact, laughing emoji. Okay, Google didn't translate that correctly, but okay, that's what that means. I put a funny face there. So by that I mean like the 16th, the new house that we did end up going with, has a whole like applications process that you have to go through. They vet you, they vet your game, they make sure that it's a good overall match in both directions, and and that you're willing to follow their rules and they're willing to follow yours, and so on and so forth. So, by taking time and steps, that's what I mean by that, right? Some groups don't have that; they just let whoever join, and that's fine too. Um, and then going independent is also a choice. It gives you some flexibility. You can do what you want. You can have your if you participate in the RPG rating system, you can have your ratings be all threes. You can have them be all ones. You can have them do whatever you want if that's what you want to do. Um, Going independent does that whole thing. There's also less like overall regulation for like game masters don't have to necessarily do XYZ at the end of the month. We don't have to submit reports or activity or participate in fleet awards or whatever the deal is. You get more flexibility as a GM that way. For me, I'm one of those people. I like structure. I like to know exactly what I need to do when. So being in a fleet group is definitely a better choice for me and my games. But some people really like to do their own thing, and so that might be a better choice for you. And then you can also do a complete 180 and go forum based RPG. Just change the type of RPG altogether. There's some good sides to that is that you already have a layout filled out. You don't have to worry about coming up with like cute graphics. You don't have to worry about like, are my writers able to fit their sentence neatly into a cohesive group? It gives you this post and then this post and then this post that all makes sense. If that makes sense in the way that I'm explaining it, I mean, it's definitely an option. I am in a game that is a forum-based RPG, and I like it. I'm in several that are Nova-based, and I like that. And I have one game that's played by email that's kind of in a transition period right now, and I do kind of like that one as well. So it's just kind of like what works best for your personal like learning style or operating style. Something to think about. And then there's also play by email, which I briefly mentioned. I think that one's kind of falling by the wayside, though. I haven't seen too many play by email games. And then there's Discord only, which I don't like. I find them overwhelming. They move too quickly for me. I am kind of dumb and I need structure. But if it's something you like, that's also an option. You can take your game in that direction as well. That requires a GM, though, I think, who can be fairly present all of the time to avoid conflict, to avoid players who like to go into God mode or overpower, things like that. it requires a much more present GM than somebody who is, say, maybe an older adult with a family and a work, a full time job or whatever. That's definitely something suited more towards a younger crowd. And then planning missions for dummies. Aka, what the fuck now? Um, Sometimes it's easy to do, especially if you're not changing the basic concepts of the game. Just plug in the new characters and rings and go. Otherwise, you'll have to get fresh new ideas. And so for me, since I did end up changing kind of like our overall mission and our plot, we were no longer a combat escort. We did this pivot into science and exploration. And I had to come up with like a whole new kind of overall plot and overarching ideas and things to do. And so I kind of typed in some ideas into ChatGPT, which I don't I don't allow AI usage in like in full plots and stuff, but I think to come up with writing prompts, it's a great tool for that kind of thing. You can also just Google. Reddit has, if you just enter like Star Trek mission ideas into Google or whatever, search engine you're using, it'll often like just give you prompts that other people on the internet have come up with through fan fiction writing or through the Wikipedia sites and Reddit even, and so on. You can ask on Book Sky. That was actually how I got our most recent mission. As I just typed into Blue Sky and stuck it out into the Star Trek Book Sky world and said, "Hey, this is my dilemma. What do you guys suggest?" And then I just kind of eeny meeny miny moed it, And you can also modify other ideas. Like if you say, "Oh, hey, over on, the USS Mary Clary, they're doing this plot, and that sounds really good. Let's borrow that, but we're going to change it to match it up. You know, but make sure that you say that you know, it came from Mary Sue, who runs the USS Mary Clarence, and this was her idea first. We're just going to take it and modify it and borrow it." Um, and also make sure you get permission from the other person to do that, because that's intellectual property theft and we don't want to get into that because that's icky. um and the other thing I was going to say about that is that if it's collaboration, always make sure that you don't get so stuck on a plot that you're ignoring creativity as well. You can let a plot take on a life of its own. I may start off a plot with a specific idea in my head of where I want it to go, and as a GM, I'm kind of leading us there. But one of my players might drop in, an idea, and I'll be like, okay, let's run with that instead. So always remember to keep your mind open to that, because sometimes plot ideas come from unexpected places. I also like to take plots from other science fiction shows and kind of modify them to Star Trek, or vice versa, whatever. Or at least the premises thereof. So, some final thoughts I have for you today. Think and plan. Be mindful of the history of the game. Like, you don't want to completely erase everything and start from the ground up, like burn it down and start over again, unless you really do. But at that point, it's kind of like just start your own game. It's not really taking it over at that point. It's just kind of doing your own thing. We did keep the basic overall premise of the game. We retained all of the players, so I make it a point to pay homage to the original plots through mentioning deceased characters or having flashbacks or whatever, in that way. And so we keep it alive through the spirit of the game, and if not in the letter of the game anyway, right? Remember visuals. To me, like I said, referencing those characters and the plot ideas and the original mission through writing it down throughout gameplay will help to bridge the gap between this new captain character coming out of nowhere to the past storylines. There shouldn't be like a weird gap unless you want it to be. Um, you know, Star Trek's greatest resources is hand wavium. Um, Build a story and do your writing, rewrite it, discuss it, and then post it. you can ask me if you need any help. I am more than happy to talk to you about my experiences. And I'm sure that there's other, I mean, there's so many communities out there full of people who are friendly and don't bite and are actually a wealth of knowledge about things you don't even think of. And especially your neurodivergent friends might be a really good place where you maybe didn't focus so well on world building, say, a particular species of alien, but you want to incorporate it into your next mission, and you're like, oh, darn it, I don't know that much about these people. Let me hop on real quick and say, oh, you know, for example, Beth, she might know a lot about Klingons. And so I would, send her a quick message and say, hey, what do you know about Klingons? Can you give me a quick lesson? You know, and hopefully she would be able to say yes or no, and I could go from there. And then, hold on. Um, on top of that, I'll have fun. Um, so let me scroll back over to Discord and start answering questions. Okay. Right. So I'm going to open it up to any questions. Sorry, I kind of talk really fast. So if you didn't catch anything, I can go ahead and reiterate. Otherwise, just kind of a quick panel. Because luckily I wrote this one down. Like I was telling Beth earlier yesterday. Like, if I don't write it down, I'm just going to sit there and ramble for 2 hours about Bajorans. So otherwise, I go really fast. It's like there's no in between for me. So
Well, I want to say thank you for sharing your perspective. It's definitely really cool to hear another uh, game master's experience and you know making making things good for their players. In terms of continuing the RP, I think that that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I see in my community is when someone drops, for whatever reason, they have real life stuff happen, or they get into some sort of drama with somebody else, and then they decide to go, and then you've got, you know, a group of six or however many players being like, okay, well, what do we do now? We still want to play our characters. We want to keep this thing going, and then somebody has to pick up the ball, and then it's tough to be the one to do that. And so shout out to sharing your experiences on having to do that. I think that's a great thing, and I think that it's hard. It's not easy to fill those shoes and to take up the sword and the shield of GMing and to run a ship. There's a lot of stuff that people don't think about. In terms of both running a community, running a group of people, and essentially, like everything is about the people in the end. It's no matter if it's an RPG, sim, or a group of you know people who collect you know bird feathers or something. Like no matter what you do, it's yeah, you got to have that sense of a group and a community, and in the end, people is what matters. And the great thing about, I mean, like the mark of a great group is being able to, when you do have problems, be able to solve them successfully and to minimize that friction that's natural whenever you have a bunch of people together. Because, like, no matter what you do, it will exist at some level. And so I don't feel like people shouldn't feel like a failure for having some sort of friction.
oh,
And you only fail if you don't address it, in some
exactly,
way.
exactly. And and I think with that, the biggest key to that is mutual respect for everybody. Is just remember at the end of the day, we're all here and we all have the common goal of writing and telling the story. And if we approach it from that, I think a lot of conflicts can be resolved quickly and respectfully and without a lot of conflict. And some people are just determined to be buttheads, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. But hopefully those people are few and far in between. And it's been my experience that really is the case, is that the people who are buttheads tend to like flush themselves out naturally, and what's left is good group. And luckily, I had a core group of 4 people who stuck around, and then the other 4 active people that we have now. So for a total of 8 active people were people that I either had interacted with before or had come from a former fleet group and heard about this game that was restarting, and we've managed to make a small group, but pretty good, solid group of people that I would consider them to be good online friends, and I think that's important. And yeah, it's really difficult to take it over when the ball gets dropped, and then you have to juggle all of these things. And I think that people go into it expecting it to be, or at least I know I did. I expected it to be like this really hard, difficult thing, and it is hard in some ways, but it's really not. It's really just about like kind of being the captain of the ship, just kind of like making sure that everybody has a task to do and everybody's feeling included, and and also being able to participate. Okay, this player, like I have one person on my sim. She's really really good at world building, and so if I ever have like a question about, hey, I need a mock-up of this kind of planet, this is like what I have in mind, give me some input here. She's like right on it. She's really good. And so I know that I have like I feel like I'm at a place now where I can identify people's strengths and weaknesses and really play to those, so that as a community we can all help each other. Because I mean, there's a lot of things, like I'm not always the most tactful person, but my XO is. And so like if there's a place where I need to send somebody in to represent us who maybe has a slightly better interpersonal communication skills, I'll ask him to do that, to take care of that. And and I'll just do the behind the scenes stuff because that's what I like and that's what I'm good at. And I know this about myself. So yeah, it's been a learning experience anyway. Thank you for that. And I also appreciate, I sat in on part of your panel earlier, and I appreciate the input that you had. I actually I took a little break last year from paneling, and I found that I missed out on a lot of information because I find people who have been doing this for a long time, their experience is really valuable and gives a lot of input and a lot of insight and new ideas to refresh things. So I appreciate all of the perspectives that we get from these kind of things as well.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that it's really nice, just like emotionally, to spend time in this space with people who have gone through the same experiences or similar experiences that we have. Having to run these things, and I do have a couple other thoughts that I thought of while you were talking as well. So, um, the one thing that came to mind is that the best thing that if you do end up running a sim or a role play or ship, the best thing you could do is just be consistent and reliable for the players. So, and what I mean by that is like if you have a schedule of posting, make sure that you stick to that really well, because that's gonna you know, uh, people want to be able to depend on something. Like there's a million things that people could do on the internet. 50% of which are probably YouTube videos, but we live in a world of distraction, and people are always trying to pull our attention, and especially big businesses with lots of money, whose job is to get attention. So the fact that the role players are spending time writing out posts, exploring their characters, exploring these worlds that we're creating together is a wonderful thing, and we should be thankful for that. And also, just make sure that we're there reliably, so that makes that part of the player's life. So like for instance, I run a RP basically no matter what. We're always doing it at the same time every Tuesday night, and the reason that we do it that way is just so that we have like an anchor, like a regular place. People know what to expect, and that's a great thing.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I know I'm heading into a really rough period of my real life right now. I have a family member who's just diagnosed with a terminal illness, and I went to my group and I said there might be a time in the near future where will have to step away even more. I will do my very best to keep you posted as that happens, and they've been really accommodating, even so far. And I know that when I say that I'm going to post at, I'm going to put our mission post up at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, I'm going to do it because they're counting on me to do that, to move into the next the plot or whatever. I really try to keep that in mind as well. Consistency, and even for myself as GM, consistency is key because that's how my brain works. Is I'll lose the plot. We'll start off on a B plot if I don't keep that schedule for myself even. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point. Also, thank you for sharing that.
Did you just say you have a terminal illness?
I have a family member that's been diagnosed with a terminal illness.
Oh,
So
I thought you said it was you, and I was thinking to
oh, not
myself,
me.
there are there are a
Oh,
lot of players in this space
yes.
who have terminal illnesses, and
There are, but no, I have a close family member that is that was recently diagnosed, and so I
uh,
will probably have to take
well,
some
I'm
time away.
sorry to hear that.
Thank you to caretake for them. I'm a nurse in real life, and so that's kind of like my role in the family, and good, bad, or otherwise, here we are. And but I think that in that case, communication is key, and then also consistency. I can do what I can, but I can make it consistent with what little I can do as things progress.
I have a couple of players who basically the reason why they're able to be such stars in the role playing world is that they don't have like job obligations that use much of their time, so they have more free time to work on things like role playing worlds, and the reason is that a lot of them are on like disability, for instance, because they have something going on in their life, like
Right.
uh, that is keeping them from being able to work, and so I have actually lost a player pretty recently that I was thinking of who she's got a terminal illness that affects her brain, and she's not able to really write creatively like she used to, and so she ended up bowing out because of that. And there's we all wish we could do something, and unfortunately there's nothing that can be done
Yeah, sometimes
for this
that's not.
particular illness. And but man, yeah, that's very difficult, and I empathize for everybody who's in this type of situations.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing is GMs, I was thinking about, and people running games is just to remember that we're a support role. We support the players having fun, and try not to get into a mindset where hey, I'm the boss, everything goes my way, because ultimately we are like facilitators of the fun, and so
Exactly.
it's important to keep in mind everybody's experience that they're going to have, and you know they could go to any sim or RP they want, or they could go to any other place on the internet they want, but they're choosing to, like I said again, they're choosing to spend their time with us. So always come from a place of humility and gratitude,
Yeah,
and just show love and be
for
be
sure.
good
I
to
try to remind them all of the time how thankful I am that they stuck with us and with me, especially. Like I said, I'm a goofball on the internet, but I try. I try to be good. I try to be a good GM, and I really try to take it seriously and to give them an opportunity to write and be in this universe that we as fans are trying to create separately, but also seamlessly, alongside the show and stuff. And I mean, I think it all helps that we're all super fans, but I also have been really careful to make sure that my active players are comfortable and happy in the game and are not feeling like they gotta you know perform like those little robots, if that makes sense. Like they
yes.
could just be who they are and they can write their characters how they want, and obviously following the rules and stuff, of course, but but I give them pretty much carte blanche. Like I said, if you have a character concept that is, canon, but it doesn't have a lot of lore around it. Give me a good reason, and I'm pretty much sold. I'll let you write what you want to write, as long as it's within the confines of morality and decency and all that. So yeah, I mean, I approach it from I was a player myself, and so how do I want?
Sorry, I just thought this, when you said that morality and decency, I was like, in comes the player who wants to introduce the Borg seduction drone.
Exactly. That might be slightly outside of the realm of what I would allow, but we are trying to have a group here, cohesiveness. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, I mean that has not been a problem for me, but I mean I'm sure that somebody's tried it sometime.
Don't give me ideas.
If it would be anybody who tried it, would be mad.
One thing that I think
yeah,
is
I
great
just
about
tried to remember that what I
ahead.
would want from a GM as a player myself, and then I try to do that. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I think this hobby is one that introduces us to a lot of great people. We have a lot of people who have a lot of cool ideas that end up in our little niche, and so I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Through role playing and simming, I've been able to make a lot of friends who I've known for over a decade, just who I see every day, and it's really great to have those types of relationships with people who are like us and have similar interests. And so I think this is a great and very healthy hobby to have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I like that internet is, I old enough that I remember when the internet was in its infancy, and I mean, but it really does open you up to so many people that you would not have met otherwise. You would not have these ideas in your goofy little head otherwise if you didn't have the internet. So that's kind of cool. All right, anyone else anything to say? Otherwise we can end it and y'all can drink before the next person, because I don't have anything else. Like I said, I will make sure that the facilitators get a copy of the slideshow in case anybody wants it, and you can do with it as you wish after that. It's free to use, so
Sorry, Captain. I dropped my. I pressed the wrong button. Happens on occasion. Anyway, don't you be calling me out in your panels like that. Come on. I didn't do anything for the current mission. I took your idea and I ran with it. Okay.
You did. You were great.
Lo and behold, you took your acting CSO and went. Congratulations! The lieutenant is now the fucking CMO or CSO.
Surprise! Yeah.
Surprise!
Yeah.
Like
you can't, for whatever reason. Nobody likes to play that role right now. I don't know what's going on with all the scientists, but yeah, it's it's been
well,
fun.
we can't seem to keep a chief medical officer either. So don't you be putting Taisu in that position either.
Well, now I have to. You said it publicly.
She's a pararescue. She's a pararescueman, not a fucking doctor.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, that's the other thing is like, oh my gosh, that's the one thing that I didn't take into consideration is how much of a pain in the neck recruiting people is, especially right now. It seems like we're on. I don't know. It seemed like 2 years ago, everybody wanted to RP. Everybody wanted to join a game, and now you can't find anybody. It's like I'm thinking about starting to bribe people. I give you money if you come and join my game. No, that's a joke, of course. But
you said a thing a second ago where you were like, we'll see what happens. And last time, every time I hear a GM says that means someone will die, and there's nothing you could do.
That's what I'm hearing.
This is it. Just accept your fate.
Just accept your fate.
I mean, first off, good luck killing Taisu. Have you seen the size of that woman?
Yeah, no, but we could kill off Laurel and move her up. I'm thinking, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Actually, I think uh, we do have a plan for snatching a CSO off of or a CMO off of DS9 when we hit it, but we'll see what happens.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Um, all in all, love your panel. You're doing phenomenal.
Thank you. Sometimes I don't feel like it, and then I hear you guys telling me I'm doing a good job, and it makes me feel better. And sometimes I just feel like I could turn this over to you guys, and it would be ran totally better. And so some of that is, of course,
Well,
my nonsense. So
to look at it, with all due respect, Captain, as the game master for a site that I'm on, you have done a phenomenal job. And if you hadn't explicitly told me, I would think that you were just baby GM finding your feet, rather than somebody who is coming in as a GM under fire. It looks really familiar. It looks really similar and familiar. Being a baby GM myself.
all right, thank you. Yeah, that's good to hear. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's like I said, I tried to work with Outlet with Lori and Drew and um with this Glenn for a little while he was still around, and tried to really build it into, like I said, keeping the original concept intact, but making it something a little bit newer to attract new people. And then it's kind of morphed into what it is now, and hopefully it'll keep morphing into something really good where people will want to stay. We'll see.
We'll see.
Right. Anybody else have anything to say last minute, or I'll see y'all later otherwise. Okay, Beth, I think we are ready to wrap. So I'm going to shut down on my end. If I need to take care of whatever you have going on yours, I can hang around for another minute.